Hi, in this video I will show you how to put together the pumpkin spice mug, which is a 3D SVG file from Simply Crafty SVGs. So here's a finished mug. I poured some paint. Anyways, this lid comes off. So this just comes off, you see, like that. So I'm going to put that aside. And then you have the mug, and it's just straight inside, so I can put a little gift in it. So you could theoretically use this mug without the lid if you just wanted to do that. And even as we go through the assembly, we'll take a look at, you know, you might just want the outline. If you want to make a bunch of quick ones, you might want to just not put this inside insert. So there's lots of steps, and it's important that we follow the order of this, because certain things will be more difficult if you do not follow the order. So with that said, let's go ahead and start. So first I want to explain the pieces. So all these white pieces are the whipped cream lid. So we're going to put those aside because we're not going to do that right this moment. I figured I'd show how to put the mug together first, because some people might not want to do the top piece. We have these three pieces are for the handle, to put together the handle. So we're just going to put those there. These are the panels. I'll put it to the right here. And this is part of the insert. So it's kind of, anyways, these all relate to the insert. And then these are panels for the handles. And all these are the same shape. This is the outside of the mug. So you'll notice they're all the same. They don't have any holes or anything in them. So we'll be putting the handle, we'll attach that to a panel. So, but we're going to start with these. So we're just going to go ahead and fold these. So you want to fold them really well. And the nice thing about this, I keep the scores so you can see where it's being scored. I don't make it round so it's easier to put together for everybody. But you just want to make sure and fold these really well in the score lines. And do them all to get ready, and this will be the bottom piece, but we're not going to use that quite yet. So like I said, there's a specific order to go in which will help you. And if you follow this order, it should be easier for you to put it together. So I'm going to go ahead and fold the remaining pieces to get them ready, and then we'll start assembling it. So now that we have all these side panels, folded, we're going to go ahead and put them together. So if you're familiar with this kind of thing, we're just going to make this we're just going to attach the side tabs underneath and just go all the way around in each section. So I always show it because I have to assume that the first time you're coming here, you may have not done anything like this. So I'll show you the first couple, and then you can watch the remaining. So normally what I do is take this first tab, and assuming it's folded already, I'm just going to push these down a little bit. I'm going to anchor this first tab. So take the side with the small tab at the top. I'm just going to line this up on the edge here. So you want to make sure that this tab lines up with this section, this top section. And you can tell by the top and the fold right here. Hopefully you can see it well. My lights are a little bit bright today. I know this is not really an orange one, but I wanted to try a different color since I already tried an orange one. So then, once this is good and secure, so you don't want to be doing anything before it's secure, and you can do multiple ones. If you're very familiar with this, you know, go for it. Because some people do them all at once. But I'm going to add glue to the remaining tabs. Just trying it to, it doesn't matter if the glue kind of leaks out a little bit. And the reason is because we'll have panels, but I try to keep it clean anyways, just by general practice. So what I'm going to do is just line up the next one from the top, and then you can use your kind of finger to line them up. Trying to get the right angle here. And if you know you want to put it in your hand comfortably, I'm kind of doing it more for the camera than I am if I were doing it myself, just without a camera. So if I look awkward, that's the reason why. So I am using American Crafts textured cardstock, and you can see that I'm going actually as I go each section. So you want to start from the top to the bottom. So it is my preferred cardstock for 3D in boxes, and I do use it on cards too, like my box cards. So that's what it looks like inside. So we're going to do the same thing. Like I said, if you want to, if you're really familiar with this, because this is something that's not new for a lot of the paper crafts out there, you know, sometimes I like to put it on the first two. But the key is always getting that first one lined up, that first section lined up, and not gluing the second section until you got that first one in place. And that's why having these score lines, the folds, is helpful to put things like this together. Because it kind of helps you guide where things should go. Then we'll cover those folds with panels. So just showing you different ways that I kind of fold it. So I got that second tab glued. So if you do it that way, you can always flip these inside here. Then add glue this way. And I'm also using art glitter glue and a fine tip applicator. There's a link in the product description or the video. It's something I do use some other glues, but this is the one I use the most. A little bit goes a long way, and it gives me enough time for movement. So I like Scotch Quick Dry, but if I'm doing anything that's kind of rounded and I mess up, it glues much faster than sometimes I can handle. So this gives me just a little bit more time to get a little bit of wiggle room, but it doesn't take too long to dry. But I do use Scotch Quick Dry as well. So that one I didn't fold as well in the middle there, so it's hard. So I'm going to continue putting them on, so you can go ahead and watch. I'm not going to be talking through this section. But once I get to the last panel, I'll show you how to close it up, or just, you know, just to show you how I'm holding it and everything, if you're new to this. Okay, now that we're to the last section, we're going to have to just glue this shut. So because it has a curve to it, it's not always that simple, but this one shouldn't be that bad. So we're going to add glue to all the tabs. You could try to do a couple tabs at a time, that's up to you. But what I like to do, fold those back. I should have done that before I put the glue on them. I'm going to get this still anchored, this very first one. Then I'm going to attach the bottom one. So I'm just angling it around. Making sure that lines up, that edge lines up to the tab fold there. It's got weird lighting today for whatever reason. Then I'm just going to just gently reach in and fold over the other tabs, lining it up and applying pressure with my fingers inside there. So just lining them up. So next thing we're going to do, so we're going to just put that aside for now so we have it all set. I'm going to put it aside and we're going to work on the handle. So these are the pieces you want. You want the one with the holes cut out in the tab. So here are the two tabs. So I made this handle, there's a reason why I did this to make it easier, so if you want to make a lot of them, but there's no innard in this, so it's just hollow, but it gives the 3D effect. So that's what we're doing. We're just doing the outside edge right here. So that's what we're putting together. So we have this piece. What I'd do is just kind of curl it with your fingers. You could do it on the edge of a table as well. I'm just kind of rubbing it. So just giving it a natural curl for me. Then I'm going to just fold these little end tabs here. I'm going to fold them back too because they're going to, we want a valley fold. This is a mountain fold, that's a valley fold, because we're going to glue it to the inside of a panel. So onto the, I'm going to put it through and you'll see. So we can go ahead now and fold these little tabs down so we can adhere it to the sides of the handle. So you'll notice that the handles, and I'll show you in a minute, have little circle cutouts in the tabs, which I would mention briefly. So we have that, that's all ready. So this just indicates it's the top of the handle. So here's the shape from the side. And we want to make sure, I want you to make sure that this is going to be glued to the top so you don't put it on upside down. It does have a different look. If you like it upside down, you can give it a try. You can put it in upside down if you'd like. So one side of this paper is textured, other is non-textured, so I just want to make sure I put it on appropriately. It doesn't matter which side you start up here because this is the same shape all the way down. So what we're going to do is we're start at one side. So we want, well actually, let me just reverse that. We don't care whether the, I just, for some reason I forgot for a moment, we don't care whether it's textured or non-textured, so we'd probably be better off gluing to the non-textured side because we have additional panels to hide the tabs. So what we'll do is we'll start on this side. So I'm doing the non-textured side. And we're going to, just like we did before, we're going to anchor this first, see this first tab right here? Make sure we go. We're gonna make sure that this edge lines up to this fold lines up to that fold, and we're gonna anchor these. Let's just do the first two. I'll add glue to the first one and the second one. So you want to make sure they're good and lined up. So we're going to line this up. We're lining that first tab up like this. Kind of pushing the edge in under the tab to make sure that we get that tab in the right place. So that's how it starts. And it's just going to wrap around like this. So the way to do that, that's fairly simple. We'll glue about, you can do a third, you can do as many as you want at a time. But first of all, make sure that those are good and secure. And these are already pre-folded for you. I'm folding them back to put glue on them. I'm going to add glue. You could do all of them theoretically, but I'm going to add glue to like about a half of what's here. And fold them just a little bit up. And what I'm going to do is wrap it under. So you can start where we glued the first two. Then we're just going to slide them under to glue the remaining. So we're just going to continue around. Yes, I'm going up to the ones where I know there's glue on it. So you see, we're making sure that this edge lines up to the inside tab fold of these tabs, and that's what it looks on the other side. So let's find the one that we didn't glue yet. Pull them back gently. So all this is pretty gentle because we don't want to tear any of these. I'm going to add glue to the rest of them. But not putting much, especially with our glitter glue. If it does leak a little bit on the outside or inside, that's okay. We just don't want it all over our hands either. So we'll just fold them gently up. Then we'll put it back in position on the table. I'm just kind of lifting it as I go around. Fold it around. And when you get to the very end, just make sure you get that last tab. So it's easy because it's easier because we can do this against the table rather than just glue it just up in the air or anything like that. And that's one of the reasons why the tabs are on the outside, to make it easier for us to put it together. So the same thing, let's make sure that we find the part with the tab with the hole. I'm going to place it, I'm going to anchor it, and I'll just anchor it with that first one. So I'll put tab glue on that first tab. Just making sure that these tab fold lines line up, so I know where to place that first. First tab. I kind of fold it just a little bit so I can get the edge into underneath and the inside fold. I'm going to hold it for a moment. Then I can start adding glue to the rest of them. So I just lifted it in there. If you can see on the back of these tabs, it didn't cut as clean as I like on my machine. I don't know if it was the paper. It seemed to cut everything else, but for some reason this color I had some trouble with this time. Every once in a while you get a paper that has a different texture to it, even though it's the same manufacturer you're used to dealing with. So I'm trying to make sure it's at an angle you can see, but I'm going to do the same thing, just pushing under. You can't really see, but I'm pushing it. It's going like this. I can do it with my hands, but it's going to be much better if you're against the table because you're going to get the pressure. But that's what I'm doing when I do it flat. So because of the angle of the camera, it's hard to see. So that's what it looks like so far. And then we'll continue with the rest of them. And then I'll put together the structure of this handle. Like I said, I purposely left out that inside part because it looks dimensional enough, and I wanted people, if they wanted to make a bunch of them for either Thanksgiving, for gifts, or anything else, that would be a little bit faster, wouldn't be as long, because when you get into the inside, it gets a little bit more complex and not as fun sometimes. So I do have a couple that have that. So we'll go ahead and continue. So always start where you left off. Then I'm just going around the edge, making sure they match up. And special attention to that very last tab that you need to push in. Then I just kind of rub to make sure that we're getting a good end here. So it was just a little bit off because of something that I didn't space. It's the right size, it's just I started too high up there. But it won't mess you up. I mean, you'll be fine if that happens to you. So now we have the handle. Let's go ahead and put the panels on. So the panels only go on one way, but we do want the textured side up. So make sure you get them on the correct side. Make sure I have them for the correct side. Then we'll go ahead and just add glue to this edge here. So we'll do this on each side. And it'll cover all these tabs. So that's what I have here. Make sure the textured side's up and it's the correct way to, the correct panel. For some reason I just got them messed up here. I'm just kind of moving it around just to get it in the right place. And I'm just going to flip it over and gently apply pressure inside to get that panel secured and flattened so you can't really see the tabs or anything like that. So that's what it looks like. So it covers all those tabs. You want to get as tight as you can right here so you don't see any gaps. And that's when you want to put the glue to the edge as much as possible. The other thing I like to do with this is to ink the edges. So if you have like a distress ink or one of your favorite inks you'd like to use for that kind of thing, this kind of hides any blemishes and it enhances it, for at least for me it does. Since I have brown tones, you want to do that before you put the handle on because it'll be easier to maneuver. So I'll get this second side on, the second panel, and then we'll move on to the actual mug panels. So now we're going to put on the panels, and this is where order we want to put the panels on next. This way, when it's open, we have two openings, we'll be able to apply pressure when we put the panels on. So what I would do with each panel is to just curl it a little bit. So we're just training it so it'll go on to the pumpkin mug, okay? So see, it's curled a little bit. And then we're going to go ahead and place them one by one on so that the top edge is wider than the bottom edge. So you might want to stack them that way, make sure that they're sitting that way so we get them all. See if I have any that are off here. And you'll know immediately when you put it on, because you want to make sure that you have it the correct way when you put it on. So at the top are these little teeny tabs here. So we're going to go ahead and put these on this way. So we're going to add a little glue onto the top edge here. So I'm going to put this over here for a minute here. I'm just going to add a little glue. Now, if you want to adhere a little bit more in the middle, less kind of round, some people like to do it on top and bottom, and I do that a lot of times on some of my videos. But I kind of want it to attach a little bit more to the sides, but it's up to you. If you just want to do top and bottom, that's okay too. If you do the top and bottom, basically this is what you do. Line it up right below this little fold here. So it should be pretty much the exact shape. It's got a little round to it. So I'm just going to get it set with the glue that I have. And I'm just going to, for me, I'm wanting to apply a little pressure as I go down. But if you just want it to go to the bottom, you can just do that. Otherwise, this is why we are putting it on now, so we can get our fingers in here. Because there's an insert that will go in here that won't allow you to apply any pressure once you have it together. So this way, unless you do the top and bottom, even the top and bottom method, you want to be able to reach in and do this. So we'll continue to put the rest of these on. So I'll put a second one on. I'll put the rest of them. You don't need to watch me put every single one on, but I'm just going to go ahead, put a second one on, and then I'll show you how to attach the handle to the handle panel, basically. So I'm going to line it up. I'm just making sure as I put it on that I have the correct way, so it'll be shorter. If it's shorter, then you need to flip it over. So I'm just making sure it's going on straight by lining up that bottom part and then applying pressure. This is a die cuts with a view from a die cuts with a view paper pack, an older Autumn, I think it's Autumn Splendor. I just thought it would be fun. More of an autumn look than give it really a fall look. Although I did like just the plain kind of an orange print. Makes it look more like a pumpkin. So I'm not going to put all the rest of them on the video. So let's go ahead and I'll put them on, but I won't make you watch me. So there's this one little panel that looks like this, and it has holes in it. So of course it still has to go, this is the wider part, so that's the top. And you can kind of curl it just a little bit. What we're going to do is use those little openings to insert the handle. So remember, this is the top, and that indicates the top. So what we're going to do, I know it's just loose, but bear with me. I tried it a couple ways. This is the way that I actually settled on. Normally I would attach it to the actual mug, but there is a reason why I didn't do that. So let me just go ahead and slide. So I'll just slide the top part in. So just making sure it's on the wider side. And I'm just going to add glue to this top tab. I'm going to fold it back, making sure that panel edge is sitting. So you see how it's sitting in there? Sitting in the fold. So we'll go ahead and just don't rip these little flaps. They'll be okay though. I'm just giving it the right angle to get it through. And just to anchor it in before I glue the rest of them, I'm just going to glue this other tab the same way. So once you get the top on, at least we have it in the correct orientation. Then we'll go ahead and add glue to these tabs, fold them back, and do the same for the bottom. So I'm not adding a ton of glue, but just enough to get it attached, so it's attached to the panel. So with this one, I mean, you could decide, it really doesn't matter where you put it. So I'm just going to place it right here. And I'll add the rest of the panels as well. But we're going to go ahead and do the same thing we did with the other panels. Just add glue to the top. I'm going to go around the sides because I want it to be attached in the middle a little bit. The other suggestion I have, just add a little glue right on these little things, because we want those to attach a little bit so they don't flap up. But you don't need a lot. I know I'm putting on overkill. So the same thing, I'm just lining it up to that, the top fold there. I'm just kind of going down. It does feel to resist a little bit in the middle, but it really doesn't, so I'm just making sure that bottom's lined up. The other thing, I don't know if I didn't mention it to you, but right here I actually inked the edges a little bit because I wanted to kind of give it a brown look. We're going to have this yellow or sunflower look inside, so, and the handle, so it gives a contrast. So I'll go ahead and put the rest of the panels on, and then we'll move on to the next step, which is the insert. So now we have the panels on. So we'll go ahead and put together the insert. So the way that the insert cuts naturally is the scores, if the texture side, if you have a textured paper, if you fold it naturally, you're going to have non-textured inside. So if you don't care about that, that's up to you. If you have a double-sided piece of paper, if you care about it, then you'll have to fold it the other way. So if you want to fold it the other way so the texture is inside, or you could always cut it upside down. So I'm going to cut it so the texture is inside. So if that makes sense, you just need to fold it the way you want. And then these will have to fold this way if you want them the texture inside. And then these will fold like that, naturally, backwards. So we need to close this up, but we want to glue it on the outside. So I'm going to, so the basics of this is if you have textured paper and you cut it naturally, we kind of have to opposite fold, or you could just do it naturally, but just follow this direction. We're going to go ahead and line this up. It's harder to fold on the outside. Once I get into place, I can go ahead and flatten it. So when we put it inside, it's going to go inside like this. You'll just see, you won't see any seams. The seams will be on the outside. So we're going to fold these, flare these out, these little tabs. And we can actually close this, so you can see, do you see how they're flared out down here? But first, let's go ahead and close this, glue this. So since we're not going to see the tabs, let's go ahead and fold that in. And then we'll just add glue to these tabs and fold it on the bottom. This will be inside the mug, so you'll never see these tabs. I don't do a lot of these mechanisms on my boxes. This is kind of a more involved type of mug. There's simpler ones that I have and that are actually coming to the store in the future. So I'm just going ahead and using a Chinese a little Chinese wooden chopstick to help apply pressure to those tabs. Because we don't want it coming apart. And actually folding around actually makes it stronger on the bottom, so it'll hold more different, better things, whatever, it'll hold stronger things. So now I'm going to take one of these. There's two of them. We're going to take one, put that out of the way. And what I would do is make sure that the non-texture side, if you have textured paper, is down. And you can go from the top to do this. This is slightly larger than this. Let's do that from the top. It'll be easier from the top. So I want the non-textured facing up here. And trust me, it is larger than the top there. So it's sitting around like that. We're going to go ahead and add glue to these tabs. Then we're going to fold them on there. So let's flare them out again, and we'll use gravity. So we'll put it down on the table. What we're going to do is just kind of push it down all the way around. Adhering all those tabs. Try to get that edge as close to the inside edge as possible. Just a little bit larger. And you can see how it's glued on top. You can always just go ahead and do that too. Then I'm going to go ahead and add this with the texture side up to hide the tabs. I kind of did an extra, I tried this different ways. I've seen other people do it, but I had to find the way that worked for me. And hopefully it works okay for y'all. I've done a couple of them now, so. We'll just go ahead and line it up now. I guess this is a good time to say, if you did like this video, please give me a little thumbs up below. We have a ways to go. We still have to put the whipped cream on. It does help me understand whether people like the videos or not, or the projects that I make. And if you haven't subscribed, that's always great too, but that's not necessary. So I just went around and applied pressure. It wasn't perfect, but good enough. But now we're going to take the cup and we're going to slide this in like that. And we're going to glue that. See how they're slightly folded up? We're going to add glue to all these tabs. And then we're going to attach that insert to these tabs. So make sure they're not really folded down too much, because we need it to adhere. We have no way to apply pressure to the back of these. So when it's up like this, it kind of helps to adhere them. I mean, we'll flip it upside down at one point to apply pressure. So let's make sure it goes in the correct way. I don't care if there's a little glue on that, so it's okay if it hits that. We're not going to see those sides. So biggest thing is just make sure you get it lined up. So I'll start on one side. Get it lined up. And go around carefully. Kind of pushing it in so it lines up a little bit better. And I'm just trying to make sure it's lined up and it's not overlapping before it dries. So I just gently rub each of these tabs. Do spend some time on this, don't rush on it. Put plenty of glue on it too. I always say if you feel something's not working right away, pull it out. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to apply a little pressure. Not much, I'm just applying additional pressure. You see it says only slightly end, so we're going to just add this bottom panel once we feel we put enough pressure on there. So for some reason that's just what you're seeing here, maybe the way that the paper cut, because I score with a little kiss cut. So there you go, that's what the inside looks like. And we'll go ahead and put this bottom piece on. I always say it's easier just to anchor. You can do them all at once if you're really good at this, but if you're new to this, just take one side, one tab, just line it up right up to the tab fold in that section, and then what you'll just do is add glue to the other tabs, fold it down to get it in place, but this way you don't have to worry about all of them at once. So once you get that lined up, so you can go ahead and add glue on these remaining tabs. So I hopefully you can see why we have to put it in a certain order. Because if you didn't, certain things wouldn't go on. You could put the panels on later, but it's going to be harder if you don't have the ability to reach in and apply pressure. You could make the cup without this insert. If you didn't want the insert, you could do it, but you'd have to cut off the tabs. It's not part of the file, but if you're good with your software, you could do it. That's the way I wanted to try this one this time. Because I know some people actually prefer more involved projects than simple. So again, you could just use it like this. Kind of a pumpkin shaped-ish thick mug. And if you do that, you could just leave it like that, but we're going to go on to the whipped cream portion now. Okay, now we're going to move on to this portion, which is the whipped cream top. So I tried to make it's a little bit harder. It's not a real simple, but you see how it curves down. Like I said, I added a little bit of paint overnight to give it the impression of chocolate poured over the top. So anyways, we have different sections that we're going to do, and then we have this little lid so it sits into the box. So if we were to do the one we just did, it would just fit right in there like that. So we're going to go ahead and do the sections of the whipped cream. So I put them in sections because I thought it would be easier for those that are not used to the folding, because otherwise you have to fold kind of strangely. So here's these little pieces right here at the top. So I'm going to tell you the pieces so you know how to separate them. So we're going to go and look for the one that has a cut that says T in it. That goes with the top. So I'm putting them in piles. This little piece, this little rounded, this is an inside panel, and this are all the lid, the part that goes down. And then here you see the thing that says B on it. Put those together, that's the bottom. So it's cut out. There's a little cutout that says B. If you can see it, you're not going to see it, so it doesn't matter whether it's cut or not. And the bottom's the largest, so there's two pieces like this. Take the largest one, that's for the bottom, and then M, let's cut out M in the middle, if you can see that. And there's another M right here, cut out. Those are the middle. and then this little piece, curved piece, is for the middle. So we'll go ahead and take one piece at a time. We'll start with the top piece, which is the hardest piece. I mean, these aren't like the simplest things, so if you wanted to omit this, that's okay. So what we're going to do is fold back these little tabs. So for every one, you want to go ahead and you're going to want to curl it kind of with, you can use a tool like this, anything around. You can curl it like that. It curls back like this. So it kind of bulges out at the bottom, but goes up like that, if that makes sense. So you can see at the top of this one how it kind of curls down. So we want to do that for all of them. So you can use pencils, you can use styluses. I just used, this is just the like that. This is just the chopstick. So just be careful. You want to make sure you don't pull on those tabs at all. You don't need it to be too pronounced. You just want to kind of get the shape in and then fold those tabs. So now that they're ready to go, I'm going to use my fine tip applicator here. I'm going to add glue to this top tab, just like we did when we were putting the body of the pumpkin together. We're going to line this up. So make sure you line it up to the tip and get this first tab anchored. Once you have it anchored, just going to reach inside. Add glue to these little tabs inside. So this is just similar to how we put the pumpkin shape together, the actual mug together. Then we'll go ahead and carefully line it up. Again, we don't want to, if you do have any glue seep through there, just have a little wet paper towel that you can wipe off. But I'm just lining this edge up to the tab fold. And this, the tricky one is this last little one. You just want to fold it in and hold it in place. So that may take a second longer. So you can see the shape. So we're going to continue doing the same thing all the way around here. I'm just going to put glue on all of them, but I'll still anchor that very first one. And again, try to keep your fingertips as clean as possible. So if you need a wet paper towel nearby, I would do that so you can wipe them off so you don't get on the outside of this. So I'll go ahead and finish this piece and I'll come back when we're right to the end of it. Again, just make sure that you go ahead and hold that last one, get it in place. Make sure that's good in here. That just helps you get the shape a little bit better. So we're on our last piece, and you can see it's kind of curling around each other, so you can just let it naturally curl. We do have to pull it apart gently, but let's get this last one and then we'll pull it apart a little gently. But we have to be careful because you see that it's coming apart up there because I didn't hold that piece long enough. So we could just add a little bit more glue. And I'm just going to hold that in place. So that top is probably the most critical part because you want to keep it clean and also get that tip. So let's go ahead and add this last one. So the trickiest part on this whole thing really is to close it. It's a little tricky because it's so small, but honestly one of the reasons why the mug is so large is because of this. Because I did make it smaller and it made it much difficult, but I wanted to get the look of the whipped cream top. This is a little bit different if you haven't seen, wanted to do it different than I had previously, which was on my the milkshake design, which is, I actually prefer that one better. I was trying to figure out a way I could do this to make it easier for the masses to put together, so it's not that difficult, because honestly if it gets too difficult sometimes I won't make the design. I mean, there are designs I've made that are just not easy for me to show somebody to put together, and I just choose not to do that because I don't like to confuse people, because if I confuse them they email me, and anyways it's just better. I don't have any kind of levels set. I mean, that's what I could do, but I haven't put that in place yet. It would take some time to change it. So I'm just carefully throwing those tabs inside. Nice thing about paper, it recovers. So I have my tip still. So this last piece, I'm just going to reach in. So I'm trying to get it at an angle so you can see it. I'm going to reach in and add glue to those last tabs. It's white glue on white, so you can't really see it. But adding those there. And we're just going to carefully fold it up. A little excess glue there. And line it up. So if you need to start towards the bottom, we can do that. Kind of carefully, if you want it wet enough so you can move it around a little bit. So I'm squishing it in. Got my finger in there. And then that last tab, of course. Making sure that it goes into shape. There we go. If you force that too quickly, it's not going to close. So that's where I kind of rolled it a little bit weird on that one right here. But making sure everything's all tight. If you need to add a little bit more glue because it didn't adhere, like right there, I'm just going to add a little smidgen in there. You can go ahead. So that's what it looks like inside. So now we're just going to go ahead and add the bottom piece. So remember, use the one that says T on it. We'll go ahead and anchor it to one edge, one tab. And glue it down just like we did to the bottom of the mug. I know that was delayed. I was concentrating, I couldn't talk. So there's the top piece. So we'll go ahead and do the middle. So the middle and the bottom are done the same. So I'm going to show you how to do just one of them, and then the other will go together the same way. So it's the same pieces. I'm just making sure that's good and secure. So this is the middle. So it's exactly the same as the bottom piece, as you can see. The shape is the same, everything. So they're going to go together the same. So we're going to go ahead and fold these to show you how to fold it. Laying it down will be easier for this. And then it's going to go like this. Same thing with this piece, but there's bigger tabs. So these, I'd still lay it down, fold it up. This will be the bottom. The bottom will attach to this. So you still want to fold around here. So you can see that this is the top, that's the bottom, so the further we go down, the bigger it is. So we'll go ahead and we're going to glue this little tab underneath on the other side. So go ahead and just add glue to this tab. We're going to just come around here, line this edge up to that fold, right up to it, not over it. That's how it looks like inside. And we can go ahead and just glue this on. So we're going to glue this top on. I had to make sure I wasn't steering you wrong. So what's nice about this is that when I add these, glue these together, I can get some pressure inside to get them adhered and lined up. So I'm going to line them up. So I'm just going to, as I go down and I'm reaching inside to apply pressure from the other side. But just to get them lined up first. And if it's off a little bit, it's not a huge deal. So now I can flip it over and apply pressure. So I'm just getting some excess glue off my fingertips. So that's one part of it. So now we're going to take this piece and this little tab at the end here, same thing. Just going to add just a little bit of glue and glue it on the inside of the other edge. Just line it right up to the, don't go over it, just go a little bit right next to that fold here. So now we're going to go ahead and anchor one of these. So this is going to glue on like that. And all those tabs are going to glue around. So this kind of angles down. So we're going to go ahead and start with one tab. Make sure we're just dealing with this skinny edge. So go ahead and line it up. Make sure it's in the section, else it won't fit right. So make sure that this fold line's lined up that fold line, you know. This is the biggest part of this. So I'm just making sure it's lined up. And then you can see how it's glued on the inside. Make sure that's anchored in. And I'm gonna just go ahead and I need to get a little piece of paper here. Well, this is not as flat as I want it to be right there. So there's too much of a gap, so I'm just going to add a little paper, a little glue on the edge of my paper here. So I have glue on the edge of my paper. I'm just going to reach in, get it under the edge here. Before we finish it, I just want to make sure that we won't do that on the top. Really tight on the top there. I wanted that edge tighter. Okay, so now we have this anchored. We're going to go ahead and glue all these to the inside so we can fold them down so we can add glue to them. Once this is anchored, you can pull it back just a little bit to help you add glue. So what I usually do is try to glue the tab opposite to the one I start with a hexagon or an octagon for that matter, but anything shaped like this I try to do that so it'll help keep the other tabs in alignment. So I'm going across, just lining that up. As I get it lined up, I reach in to get it adhered, and then the other should fall into place. So you can see I'm folding it up, folding each tab up and gluing it to the inside. There might be little minor adjustments. And I'll just finish it off going around. And then you can see the tabs, how they're glued on the inside. So we'll go ahead and put this bottom piece on, and I'll go ahead and make, so this is the middle section. I'm going to make the bottom section, and it goes together exactly the same, so I'm not going to show you how to put that on. So you want to do the bottom section of the whipped cream last, and I'm doing this without anchoring it, so you can see it can be done. But if you feel more comfortable with anchoring, then I would do anchoring. So I'm pushing them down just a little bit. Then once we get the bottom piece done, we'll work on the little lid edge mechanism to make sure that we can attach. We'll do that as well as stack the whipped cream up, which is just gluing these sections. So if you do it like this, just make sure that you're matching the edge up. I'm a little bit off here. And that's it. So I'll move on to the next thing. So I'll come back when I have that bottom piece done. So now we have the different pieces. So you see it says M and B. So that goes like that, goes like that. So we're just going to glue them all together. So I'm going to put them together right now so it gets time to dry. Go all the way to the edge because the bottom is pretty much the same size. It's not going to be perfect, but just giving you the look of whipped cream is what I was trying to get at. So you want to kind of get it situated in place. So if there are gaps on the bottom of the bottom pieces, there's going to be gaps in those areas. So I just glue them together and just kind of hold them down gently because they obviously are hollow. And then we'll put that top piece on. So I thought about this. Some things, and it's too late now to tell you, but if you wanted to, you could put little cinnamon stick or something. Just cut a little piece and put a hole there. About a 1/2 inch hole works. I sized it. I chose not to do it on these. The other thing for the topping, you could, I'm actually going to use Mod Podge to coat this and add some glitter to give it the look of almost like a glittery, pop that off. If that happens to you, just be careful. You just want to push it. But I wanted to give it the look of like a little bit of cinnamon on it, but it's going to be obviously glittery cinnamon. So when you're putting this on, be careful, keep your fingers towards the bottom so you don't pop it out like I did. But I'm not going to show you the Mod Podge part because, so basically I'm just going to paint the whole thing, and I already tested a little bit and put some glitter over it. But you could also do this, which is, this is acrylic paint, and I watered it down and put it in like a little fine tip applicator type, almost like the glue, and got it to the consistency I want before I put it on here, so it would just drip down. I'm sure other people have other ideas, but those are two that I figured out. So I'm going to put it, it's not perfect, but there it is. I'm going to put it aside to dry while we do this next piece. So this is the last piece, which is the insert of the lid. So we have this piece, we're just going to fold these tabs in. And I tried several ways of doing this. I came across, this is the way I ended up because of how particular we had to have this placed so it fit in. So this, we just go ahead and fold all these tabs down. So this is going to formulate the edge that of the lid, the insert of the lid. So make sure it's good and folded. Just fold back that tab if you just want to fold it in. And if you're familiar with the regular just square lid, we're just going to glue these tabs to the inside. So we're going to go ahead and add glue to this tab. And then we're going to line this up, this edge up to the tab fold. Get the excess glue off. Make sure you hold it long enough. What I tend to do with any kind of lid or situation like this is I hold the one tab I just glued and I add glue to the next tab. So by the time that I get it ready, usually it's time for me to, I can go ahead and do the next tab. I mean, there's no time, you don't have to rush, but it's a pretty simple assembly, but it's just a matter of holding it in for a bit because you don't want it coming apart, literally coming apart at the seams. Then we're going to take that other part that this is just a panel. We're going to take that other part we folded and we're going to attach it to this. And for anybody that wants to know why, I'll explain why in just a moment. You'll see why. Sometimes the simplest things that seem really simple, and I'm like, oh, you can eyeball that, are not so simple. So tried multiple times and came to this conclusion. So here are the pieces. These are all folded in, and we want the texture to be on the top, so we want it to go this way, and then we want these to glue on the inside of this. So one thing to to keep a note, let's go ahead and just glue one. So I'm just going to put glue on the back of this. Going to line it up to a section here so you can see it's upside down. So before we go on for the rest of it, I'm just making sure that's good. So I didn't want to do it at the beginning, but I'm going to add a little glue right around the inside edge right here. So it'll be tighter and won't lift up on the edges. So just making sure all those tabs are folded in. Don't get it on the outside. It doesn't have to be a lot. I'm just trying to get it a little bit stronger so when you pull it up it's not. So I'm making sure all those tabs are inward. Then now I'm going to glue the opposite tab. Pull it down. Then I'm just going around the edge to get all those areas. So that just makes it a little bit stronger. If you wanted to, it's really not necessary. It's not that heavy. The whipped cream part is not that heavy once it's together. So I'm just putting glue on the remaining tabs, folding it back. The nice thing is we have a flat surface, so we can use the table to apply pressure. So now that fits where it needs to. So that'll be the edge, and we'll center the whipped cream top. And before we get any further, we can go ahead and put this insert in. It'll hide all the tabs, so in the inside you can't see it. So you don't want to go all the way to the edge, just kind of get enough in there to hold that insert in. I probably have a little bit too much. It doesn't matter if I get glue in the middle, but I'm just trying to keep it off my table. That fits loosely in there. It's just meant to be a panel. You can see it lifts up a little bit. Let's say you didn't like it, you could always like insert a little more glue in sections if you wanted to get underneath there. But honestly, when you pick it up, it's really not gonna, it's just for looks anyways, and it's a gift. Usually a gift. So the magic of videotaping. Since I began this videotape overnight, I took this whipped cream that I created. I added some Mod Podge, some glossy, and then sprinkled some glitter on it. And then I clear coated it, so to give it a different look than the other one. So, or you could just use it, leave it plain. That's up to you. I've seen people also glue on not bling, well bling, but beads or stuff like that. Somebody had an idea of making panels to put on top to make little holes to make it look like little sprinkles. So the last thing we need to do is to get this centered. So what I would do, so it gives you a little wiggle room, is add glue. I'm adding it to the bottom, but I'm not going to the edge. So we do make mistakes, so I'm going to show you something. So you can see I actually tore this off another one because I didn't want to, I'd have to redo this. I didn't get it centered. So you can see I put glue to the edge. What you're going to want to do is get above it. So I'm going to kind of angle it towards me so I can see all edges at once. I'm just going to eyeball to make sure it looks centered. So if you can see, the last time I tried this, I had one side over the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and just hold it down until it's glued down. So now here's the finished cup. I think I like the drippy lid, the drippy better. I just put a little bit too much glitter on that. So I'm going to add a little tag. Like I said, the tag is, I don't know if I said this yet, but anyways, the tag is in the extra stuff folder of the zip file. So you can make it whatever you want. Put colored on there, colored sprinkles, whatever you want to do. But it's a different box. And again, remember, you can just make this piece. If you don't want the top, how fun is that? You can put a little bit of, you could actually put coffee or tea or anything in there. So I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, please, again, go ahead and click like below. And I thank you so much for watching.